The following is a back-to-school national address by the Honourable Glenys Hanna Martin, the Minister of Education and Technical and Vocational Training.
Good evening. On this, the eve of the beginning of a new school year, I take this opportunity to communicate with you, my Bahamian people, on the preparations, goals, and objectives set for education, and in particular public education, in our country in the ensuing days and months ahead. At the outset, we must all settle on the realization that the last 3 years, which combined the ravages of Hurricane Dorian and the COVID-19 pandemic, have been difficult and challenging years for our nation, and even more peculiarly so for education. The shutdowns, the disruptions, and ultimately the reversion to virtual learning for a prolonged period has led to fallouts and deficits in many quarters. When we took office, we understood the compelling and urgent mandate to cause for our children to return to face-to-face instruction. This was ultimately achieved in January of this year, but only after having to complete unfinished school repairs in several schools, which we met lingering when we took office in late September last year. The return to face-to-face instruction was not met without challenge, however, including sporadic cases of persons testing positive for COVID-19 in a few schools, and its impact on national exams and end-of-year school exams. The reality of learning loss suffered by many of our students, violent altercations among students erupting on campuses, significant absenteeism of students from schools nationwide, teacher shortages, challenges with the learning management system, which also affected the ministry's ability to print report cards last term, and concerns about the impacts of the criteria of the high school diploma have all surfaced as simmering and long-standing issues. We have diligently sought to meet and address these many challenges, and we have been dogged and unrelenting in achieving levels of normalcy on school campuses, while at the same time pursuing a progressive agenda of reform in education in our country. My brothers and sisters, this has proven to be a very dynamic agenda. But this administration has grounded action, policy, and resources upon the fundamental precept that the qualitative state of education in our country will fuel our national progress and our prosperity and catapult the positive growth and development of our people. The contrary is also true, however. That is, that if our educational performance is not meeting our national expectations and collective aspirations, this will negatively impact our prospects of true and full progress. This cannot and will not ever be acceptable. So our efforts must be directed at getting to the source of every barrier to learning and thereby unleash the genius that resides in the Bahamian child. Tonight, I wish to share with you some of the work the Ministry of Education has been engaged in over the last 11 months. And in this regard, I wish to recognize and thank the administration of that ministry across the board and across the nation for the hard work that has been underway and for their diligent attention. Over the last several weeks, more than 200 repair projects at schools nationwide have been underway. This effort in future must be sustained on an ongoing basis so as to continuously and incrementally improve and enhance the physical environment that our students and teachers will interact in and where the delivery of instruction and learning will take place. Some of this repair work has been indeed transformative, beyond repair, and more akin to redevelopment. I must say that to witness the extraordinary skill, effort, and commitment of the Bahamian contractors nationwide, all of whom understood that an emerging generation will occupy those many classrooms and campuses, has been heartwarming and an impressive demonstration of the incredible work ethic and pursuit of excellence, which is truly at the core of our national identity. Based on my advice from throughout the archipelago, all schools will open nationwide tomorrow for face-to-face instruction, save for the Center for the Deaf, which I'm advised will receive its students later this week. In particular, the students of T.A. Thompson will return to their campus for the first time in a long time. New construction of schools and classroom blocks throughout the country will be initiated without interruption to on-campus learning. In preparation for this academic year, the ministry has, under combined recruitment, a total of more than 300 new teachers, guidance counselors, school psychologists, and teachers' aides with varying specialties, and additional recruitment is underway to meet scarcity subject areas and deficits in some of our schools. These new teachers, and indeed all of the nation's teachers, have been in conclave last week in preparation for the classroom tomorrow, and there is an air of excitement and optimism. The ministry will monitor in the first few weeks to ensure teacher complement corresponds with student enrollment. Amongst the new teacher recruits was Talia Cooper from the island of Eleuthera and a recent graduate of the School of Education at the University of the Bahamas. I am told that she excitedly attended the orientation sessions put on by the ministry, and after having completed the second and final day, died suddenly later that evening. By all accounts, Talia was an inspiring and courageous young Bahamian woman who, despite serious health challenges and physical setbacks, nevertheless diligently prepared herself intellectually and emotionally to impart her life's energies into the children of this nation. I believe her courage and commitment is reflected in so many of our nation's teachers. I wish to extend my heartfelt condolences to her parents and family and to all who knew and loved her. Our teachers are the amazing catalysts for the stimulation and realization of our children's potential. But many of our teachers have experienced fatigue and in some instances even burnout, especially since the onset of the pandemic. And this is being seen globally. We wanted to understand the teachers' perspective of what they have been experiencing and their outlook on the profession and on education in general. The ministry conducted a survey nationwide, and its results are now helping to guide our responses and strategies going forward. I am gratified that for the first time in years, teachers' salaries have been increased, allowances and benefits have been increased, and a retention bonus introduced to incentivize long-serving teachers to stay in the profession. Also well underway is the development of a career path for teachers who will have the opportunity to apply for the posts of senior and master teacher so that their talents in the classroom can continue to be utilized while their professional growth is facilitated. I take this opportunity to thank the thousands of teachers in both public and private education for their invaluable contribution to the growth and development of the Bahamas. It is imperative that we match teachers with every subject that is needed. We have been working to accomplish this task, particularly in many disciplines that have become even more urgent during the period of remote learning. One such area is special education. And in fact, children with special needs have perhaps suffered most in the virtual learning environment. Special education teachers are in short supply. To address this deficit, the ministry is currently in discussion with a major international university to provide an opportunity for our teachers to read for a master's degree in special education, a program that is not currently available at the University of the Bahamas. This will assist the ministry to meet the requirements of our special needs students so that they too will realize their full potential in accordance with our national credo that every child counts. In relation to deficits created by the pandemic, we now have underway a process for the selection of a technological firm to allow us to measure learning loss at every level of our student population and to design accelerated learning programs to allow our students to catch up. That work is expected to commence in the next several weeks. The safety and security of our campuses have been placed at a premium. And in this regard, the ministry's security staff personnel are undergoing specialized training at the Royal Bahamas Police Force, with the first squad having graduated about 2 weeks ago, and training for the remaining officers to take place shortly. Additionally, several officers of the Royal Bahamas Police Force have been assigned by the Commissioner of Police to junior and senior high schools throughout the country. These officers are specially trained, having received international certification as school resource officers, and they will work in collaboration with the principal of the respective schools to assist in securing campuses and in guiding students on an array of vexing social issues by way of a curriculum which these officers will deliver. Our children must be permitted to learn in a healthy and safe environment without fear or risk of suffering serious harm. We see the hallmarks of education as more than the amassing of facts and findings, but everything to do with the development of proud self-perception, a keen understanding of our history, origin, and culture, the providing of an outlet for the creative talents and energies, improving physical and mental well-being, developing emotional intelligence, and encouraging innovation and independent inquiry. With this in mind, the curriculum is being reviewed, and the most recent revision was recently rolled out. This will be monitored and adjusted as needed for maximum achievement of these objectives. These changes will be seen at the pre-primary level with an early focus on STEAM, exposing students to science, technology, reading, the arts, and mathematics. At the primary level, an urgent and intense focus on literacy, and for students in grades 4 to 6, an introduction to coding. And just this summer, scores of public primary school teachers attended training workshops in the teaching of coding. High school students will be introduced to robotics and encouraged for scientific inquiry. There will be greater integration of technical and vocational training and certification and apprenticeship at the high school level, and that groundwork is now underway. Our students will learn about climate change and the peculiar vulnerability of our own nation, and to investigate strategies for our survival. And the ministry has commissioned the development of a new Bahamian history textbook aimed for completion by the 50th anniversary of our national independence, to encourage and cause for our young people to engender a strong sense of self and national identity. We are now revamping the physical education curriculum, including after-school sporting activities to enhance physical and mental well-being and develop sporting excellence, which can be tied to tertiary education scholarship opportunities for our young people. We're now working with Let's Swim Bahamas and expect to expand swimming curriculum in 6 additional primary schools in January next year. This is an essential skill for our children, painfully highlighted by the drowning deaths of several children this summer. Their permanent absence from what tomorrow would have been their classrooms must be the impetus for doing all possible to equip our children with this basic survival skill. I extend my heartfelt condolences to the families of these lost children. We will also develop an enhanced creative arts curriculum to include dance, music, art, and the dramatic arts to create avenues for the expression of the substantial and brilliant creative talents of our young people, and that discussion is underway. The pandemic has been a harsh time for many of our children, and a multi-ministerial committee, including public health, education, and the Department of Social Services, is studying and exploring any possible mental health impacts and appropriate responses, and I await their final report. The LMS, whilst being undoubtedly an invaluable tool, has been the subject of much commentary and controversy, some of which has been verified by a recent survey undertaken by the Department of Statistics at the instance of the Ministry of Education. In response to this, the ministry has brought in specialized IT support, which it will seek to retain on an ongoing basis so as to avoid or minimize future disruptions. The results of the national examinations were recently released, and it is intended that a review and an analysis will be undertaken of these and all future national testing and examinations by the Research, Planning and Policy Division to garner the appropriate insights and to help guide policy going forward and implement the appropriate interventions. An intervention tool that is now being revisited is the Bahamas Learning Channel, whose relaunch is now under active discussion. The focus will be on content to provide reinforcement to students from pre-primary to 12th grade, providing academic support in the after-school timeframe. A national commission has been appointed, and work is now underway to to review the components of the high school diploma and how those components interact in measuring true student attainment. We anxiously await those findings and recommendations, which we hope will allow for the transparent reform of the diploma regime. In education, we have a very ambitious agenda, and our efforts are accelerated because the stakes are high. I have coined this year as the year of the beginning of the turnaround in education and a period of powerful human development of our young people. This cannot and will not be achieved by teachers and politicians and the public servants alone. We need more and more and more of our parents to participate as full stakeholders in the educational outcomes of their children. This does not mean you have to be a math professor or a language arts expert, but it does mean in requiring levels of accountability from your children with even the basic matters of punctuality and attendance, in establishing and sustaining a rapport with teachers, and in supporting your child's progress. The guidance counselor, the Department of Social Services, the lunch program, the Ministry of Education itself are there to assist you where needed. We are in this together. We have engaged a cadre of attendance officers who will operate from urban renewal centers to assure student attendance to school on a daily basis. I encourage corporate Bahamas, the church, and other components of civil society to support the schools and students in your community. This is not simply a charitable act. It is an absolute necessity for the strong and healthy building of our social and economic life. It takes a village. I am quite clear of the fact that we are a great nation, and our children are our greatest asset, and the hope for an incredible future. I thank Prime Minister Davis, who understands the urgency of the moment, and my cabinet colleagues, the Ministers of Social Services and Urban Development, Works, Health and Wellness, National Security, and Public Service for their continued collaboration and support. Finally, I thank you, the Bahamian people, for your encouragement and support of all of the work that we are undertaking. May God forever make his face to shine upon the beautiful children of this nation. I thank you and good evening.
The proceeding was a back-to-school national address by the Honorable Glenys Hanna Martin, a production of the communications section of the Ministry of Education and Technical and Vocational Training.